Last Monday, May 23, there was a press conference between US President Joe Biden and Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida in Tokyo, as part of Biden's first visit to Asia, which aims to unite allies and partners to counter the growing Chinese influence there. During the press conference, a reporter stood out and asked the US president a crucial question. The query raised is crucial, as it is being asked at a sensitive time, not because it is one of its kind. Russia is going forward to complete a major military operation in Ukraine for the third month in a row, despite all the West's attempts to prevent or repel it. In addition to that, the successive US administrations always pursue soft and understanding diplomatic policies regarding the sensitivity of the Taiwan issue to the Chinese system. However, Biden was the first US president to mention clearly, for the first time in decades, that the US military is pledged to intervene in order to defend Taiwan if China has ever tried to annex Taiwan by force. Let's be clear. This was the first time that the most senior US official all over the world had stated clearly and firmly that Washington intends to intervene militarily to prevent China from annexing the island of Taiwan, which the Chinese consider as being a part of their historical lands. It is known that the Americans supply Taiwan with weapons, but the idea of direct military intervention was not publicly mentioned before in this way, as the United States was pursuing a policy called strategic ambiguity. But Biden's statement blew up this strategy. Of course, the statement of the US president in the press conference angered the Chinese. Hours later, the Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman came out and said that Taiwan is an inseparable part of China's territory, and the issue is a purely internal affair, as the issue of China's territorial integrity has no room for compromise or concession in any way. China is ready to defend its national interests when it comes to Taiwan. Later, after that, White House officials implicitly retracted Biden's statements and tried to fix things. One of them said that the official position of the United States has not changed, on that we affirm the One China policy, meaning that Taiwan belongs to China, and we affirm our commitment to peace and stability across the Taiwan Strait. Moreover, they asserted that President Biden simply meant that the United States would provide military equipment to Taiwan, with no forces to defend the island if China made an invasion. Biden's first visit to Asia created a state of tension in the region, let alone that the situation in the west of the continent has been raging for months due to the Russian invasion of Ukraine, especially since he launched economic plans during that visit to confront Chinese hegemony. This visit raises a number of critical questions. What exactly is happening in the Sino-American conflict over Taiwan? What is the economic plan that Biden announced there to confront China's hegemony? What is the serious step that the United States has taken that might increase the friction between the American warships in the South China Sea and the Chinese warships? All this and more will be discussed in today's episode. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to see all our episodes. Taiwan lies about 170 kilometers from the Chinese coast. It is separated from China by the Taiwan Strait. It is an island with a population of 23.5 million people, and its GDP is up to $665 billion. The rule in the two countries has been separate for more than 70 years. However, this has never withheld the ruling Communist Party in China to constantly demand the annexation of the island as for being a part of China. Furthermore, the Chinese President Xi Jinping has previously mentioned that the reunification of China and Taiwan is inevitable, by force if necessary. Guess who is blocking China from annexing Taiwan by force? You were right. It is the U.S. Pacific Fleet, affiliated to the U.S. Forces Pacific Command, a command under which about 5 aircraft carriers and up to 1,100 aircraft of various types operate. The Chinese citizens of Taiwan are also standing up to them. They categorically refused to join China in 2 consecutive elections. We had considered the Sino-American conflict over Taiwan in a previous episode. Check it here, as tensions have recently reached their highest levels. According to some of the most important military analysts, the clash between the United States and China over Taiwan is one of the world's greatest geopolitical risks. What is the importance of Taiwan to the United States and its allies such as Japan? Its importance lies in that they rely on it as a base to contain the Chinese tide in the region. The most important is to protect the strategically located sea trade routes, as Taiwan is the world's most important supplier of semiconductors and other high-tech products. Worthy mentioning that, in 2020, Taiwanese semiconductor manufacturers accounted for about 63% of the total global market share. The crown jewel of Taiwanese companies, and the most important giant in the global semiconductor industry, which is TSMC, which alone acquired 54% of the global market share. The most important and biggest advantage of Taiwanese companies is not that they only produce most of the electronic chips, but they produce the most advanced chips in the world that go into the manufacture of all high-tech electronics, from modern mobile phones to the highly advanced and complex combat aircraft such as the American F-35. The TSMC company alone produces 92% of the world's advanced chip production, which means That Washington and Beijing rely on it in particular in their sensitive military industries. This is one aspect of Taiwan's importance. That's why the Chinese do not see retreat as an option. They will go ahead and unify the Chinese territory, as expressed in their constant speeches and pronouncements, whether through political penetration or military force. On the other hand, the Chinese are trying to take advantage of any opportunity to increase their military and economic influence in the entire region in order to fully control Taiwan as a small goal, and to undermine the American presence in the region as a larger goal in economic terms. For example, the Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement, known as TPP, was signed during the presidency of the former U.S. President Barack Obama. It is a huge trade agreement sponsored by Washington, so to speak, and it includes several countries except China. For sure, its aim was to increase American influence in the Asia-Pacific continent to benefit from the free flow of commodities and services with the member states engaged in the agreement, in addition to reducing China's role in the region. That was the case until it was signed in 2016. But only 1 year later, in 2017, when the former American President Donald Trump came to office, a gift was given to the Chinese as Trump withdrew from the agreement. Yet, the Japanese went ahead with negotiations with 10 other member states in order to change its name to the Comprehensive and Advanced Agreement for the Trans-Pacific Partnership, CPTPP. At that time, the U.S. had no specific plan to enter into an economic and trade partnership with the countries of the region. As a result, China took advantage of the opportunity in the absence of U.S. trade to move toward signing many trade agreements with its neighbors, which increased its economic influence at the global level through the Belt and Road Initiative. It succeeded in signing the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, RCEP, in November 2020, which entered into force in January 2022. What type of agreements is that? It is a pretty large trade agreement led by China, and it is considered to be the largest trade bloc in the world. It includes 15 member states, which are the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, ASEAN, in addition to major economies outside ASEAN such as Japan, South Korea, Australia and China, of course. The signatories have huge economic benefits such as reducing import tariffs and other benefits for member states. Not only that, China wanted to make a remontada and submitted an official request in September of 2021 to officially join the Comprehensive and Advanced Agreement for the Trans-Pacific Partnership that the United States had previously done and then left. As we mentioned, after Joe Biden came to office after the U.S. elections of 2020, the new U.S. administration was not satisfied with the vacuum it had created in Southeast Asia and the Pacific, especially with China's growing economic influence in the region, which led to the current situation, the moment wherein Biden announced, during his first visit to the giants of Asia, a new cooperative framework called the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework, IPEF. What is that economic framework? This framework is a new initiative signed by 12 countries from the Indo-Pacific region, as well as the United States, Australia, Brunei, India, Indonesia, Japan, South Korea, Malaysia, New Zealand, the Philippines, Singapore, Thailand and Vietnam. These 13 countries account for 40% of global GDP. This economic framework will also push toward problem-solving development, creating spaces for supply chains, digital trade, clean energy, labor protection and anti-corruption efforts. Well, what is the purpose of the United States in bringing together those countries surrounding China and signing an economic framework among them? The truth is, there is no clearer answer than the words of U.S. Secretary of Commerce Gina Raimondo. Please pay attention, as she said that the economic framework for the Indo-Pacific region seeks to restore American economic leadership across that region, and that the goal of the plan is to make the countries of the Indo-Pacific, except China of course, more attractive as manufacturing centers for American companies. She added that there are several international companies, including American companies, that want to diversify their business away from China, such as Vietnam, Malaysia and Indonesia, that have signed on that economic framework, where they will have the advantage of getting some of the work of American companies because they will sign high standards agreements, which we plan briefly. The US wants to first withdraw American companies from China, followed by withdrawing other global companies, and this will be done by creating an available alternative. The United States is figuring out what China has to offer and attract American and international companies to business with it, so it will help the countries with which it has signed up to that economic framework to create and make up those attractive advantages, thus building a supply chain that excludes China. However, if we look at the countries that signed this economic framework, we will not find the most important country for the United States, which is Taiwan. U.S. officials justify this by saying that the initiative's membership will grow in the future, so other countries will join it by extension. Regarding Taiwan in particular, U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan said that the U.S. will engage in deeper cooperation with Taiwan on trade and economic matters in the coming days and weeks. However, the truth is, apart from this diplomatic talk, The United States is afraid of Chinese anger if Taiwan annexed that initiative. It is worth mentioning that the words of the U.S. Secretary of Commerce came very shortly after a report published by the Wall Street Journal on Saturday, May 21, saying that Apple, the American electronics giant, is seeking to transfer some of its production from China to other countries such as Vietnam and India. By the way, more than 90% of Apple products such as iPhones, iPads and MacBooks are made in China. The movement taken by Apple, the largest U.S. company by market value at about $2.3 trillion, is likely a result of a pressure made by the U.S. government on Apple to move its production to alternative locations to China. The idea here is that when the global technology giant Apple takes such step, moving its production outside China will definitely push other Western companies to take the same step, especially companies that were considering reducing their dependence on China, whether in manufacturing or main materials, especially after China refrained from criticizing Russia after its conquest of Ukraine. However, these steps also will not be quick or highly responsive to government pressures because these companies, especially Apple, want to maintain the continuity of selling their goods in the world's largest market, the Chinese market, without government obstacles that could be imposed by China in response to such moves. Returning to the economic framework of the Indo-Pacific region announced by the US, there has been some criticism leveled by some countries for this initiative, as it is not a trade agreement in the traditional and accepted form normally based on freedom of trade. The initiative does not include incentives for member states such as reducing tariffs or providing countries signed with greater access to the U.S. market. Thus, such restrictions may not make it an attractive alternative for countries to join it compared, for example, to the Trans-Pacific Partnership, from which America withdrew as aforementioned. Then China submitted an official request to join it. Therefore, some consider that the United States is still continuing the protectionist policy established by Trump. It wants to confront the growing Chinese influence in the region and attract countries to its own side away from China without making some sacrifices. However, there are 12 countries that have signed the initiative so far. The current U.S. confrontation with the Chinese is not limited to economic initiatives and alliances only. Washington decided to take another step further to enhance the possibilities of friction between its naval fleet and the Chinese fleet in the South China Sea, a day after Biden said the United States would use force to defend Taiwan against any possible Chinese attack. The U.S., Japan, Australia and India launched a satellite-based initiative to help countries in the Indo-Pacific track illegal fishing. This quadripartite initiative is the latest means of the United States and its allies in the region to confront China. However, this particular issue is considered more dangerous than all of the above. Why? For two reasons. The direct reason lies in the answer of the following question. Pay attention please. Which country is most involved in illegal fishing in the South China Sea and the whole region? Exactly, it's China. Accordingly, this initiative was utterly designed to confront the Chinese influence in the sea, as more than 95% of the illegal fishing was done by the Chinese fishing boats. Thus, the United States itself is leading the direct confrontation in the sea against China because the coastal countries on the South China Sea were not able to deter the Chinese on this kink. Such an initiative, undertaken with the U.S. presence, enhances maritime cooperation against China and weakens Chinese capacity in the waters as the fish stocks in China are almost depleted. Moreover, there are Chinese fishing fleets that include privately owned ships and merchant ships of state-owned companies that travel farther to look for new fishing grounds in Southeast Asia and the South Pacific, and sometimes to regions much further away such as West Africa and some coasts of South America too. Therefore, the movements of these illegal fishing fleets will be monitored for the countries of the region. Even boats that may turn off their transponders will be monitored by satellites. Thus, this will increase the possibilities of confrontation between the Coast Guard ships. The second reason is that the initiative will provide an excellent cover for quick monitoring in case China decides to invade Taiwan, because this invasion, no matter how professionally equipped China is, there is no way to implement it except with a comprehensive Chinese naval attack. Undoubtedly, such an attack by the Chinese fleet needs pretty hard arrangements and organization. Therefore, the best way to monitor and confront it before it even begins is through satellites and space monitoring, no matter how much China tries to cover up the process of organizing and preparing. Chen Xiongmiao, a researcher at the National Institute for South China Sea Studies, says that the initiative will be part of the U.S. strategy to integrate its navies, including the U.S. Coast Guard, to counter the growing Chinese presence in the South China Sea and the South Pacific. If you remember, at the beginning of May, Biden said at his summit with members of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations that America would deploy Coast Guard ships in the region to help enhance maritime security there. The source of danger here is that the warships have laws that prevent the escalation of tension if a confrontation occurs between the Chinese and American navies. In contrast with the Coast Guard, there are no known rules for dealing in cases of confrontation at the same time. Coast Guard ships are armed, so any potential confrontation could throw things out of control. The most dangerous question, which none of the four countries has answered yet: will the US Coast Guard ships resort to force if the Chinese fishing boats refuse to turn back and comply with orders not to fish? How would the US Navy ships in the area deal with the Chinese fishing boats if satellites spotted them fishing illegally? I will let you answer these questions in the comments below. In the end, this was a quick observation considering the current Sino-American tension in the Southeast Asian region against the backdrop of Biden's visit and the new American strategy there, especially with regard to the most important Asian player for the United States in the East, which is Taiwan. Nonetheless, we will try to cover this hot economic file in other episodes. Don't forget to use the links below the video. I hope you like this episode. Please hit the like button, share the video, and above all tell your friends about us. They may like it as well. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel to see all our episodes if you haven't subscribed yet. Goodbye.